Hey, listeners, welcome back to the Dreadful Dialogue, a podcast where we chat about all things horror. Today, we have a brand new guest. He is a friend of the pod. Before we even got on the mic, we were talking about how it's very 6 degrees of separation now with a lot of my guests. If you've listened to previous episodes with Bonnie, the voiceover superhero, we're now with one of her friends that is now becoming my friend, and he is a guest. His name is Mark Henderson. And hey, hi, Mark.
Hey, how's it going, you guys? I am so happy to be here.
Yeah, Mark has quite a resume. He's also a retired teacher. He is a musician. I'll let him talk about what instrument. What instrument do you play, Mark?
I played trombone in a local jazz band, a community college jazz band.
Nice, nice. And he is also in voiceover, so it's great. We have a fellow person here to nerd out. And today we are going to be talking about the 1931 movie Frankenstein. And it was Mark who kind of who came to me with this. So, Mark, why are you such a big Universal Monsters fan?
It's one of those things that caught me as I was young. And I'm 65, so when I was younger, there wasn't a whole lot of this new kind of horror happening. So there was a lot of replays of the classics. And one of the things that just really caught my attention was just the photography and the gadgets and all that kind of stuff. It just fascinated me that what they had done. As I got older, I was able to go to the Universal Studios one of the last times when I was younger, and we were walking through like a horror set. And I go, "Oh, how do they do that? How do they do that?" And I remember asking the lady, "How do they make the cobwebs up there?" And she goes, "Oh, we take a rubber cement and put it in like a spinner, and it throws out these little threads." I go, "Oh, that's cool." In the 80s, one of the last times I was at Universal Hollywood, they had the Castle Dracula exhibit, and it was a show that happened while you were waiting for your tram. And so we went on it early, and at the end, they say, "Oh, just so you know, there's only 2 actors on the stage. Everybody else are volunteers from the audience. So if you'd like to join the show." So I came back after we got back, and he goes, "Oh, you want to?" I said, "I'm interested in Frankenstein, right? Because I'm 6'5",
Yeah.
so that works." So I said, "Yeah." So he took me back, and they did makeup on my face. I had a mask, but they had to do around my eyes, and they put me on 3 or 4-inch platforms, so I'm walking out in the costume and and everything. So so I actually got to be Frankenstein at Universal for an hour or 45 minutes or whatever it was. So, or the monster rather. And so that was fun for me. So it's always stuck. And so that's what I like about the early ones is they were new.
Mhm.
They were creating
Yes.
a whole genre, and they were developing a style. And that you talked about this on your last pod, but you see things that they did there that comes back in a lot of the other movies, and so it's kind of fascinating to see. Oh, that's where that came from.
Yeah, I mean, if a younger audience were to watch this or, a current audience, a younger audience were to watch it, they probably wouldn't appreciate it. It's like this black and white movie, and it's very obviously it's just not gonna be you can't compare it to modern stuff. But as a fan of the genre and a fan of just I'm a huge fan of cinema in general, you have to appreciate it. Like you said, we wouldn't have this genre. Um, Frankenstein, this version of Frankenstein is so epic, right? You see it, you see, if you don't see the actual one, which I have on my shirt, right? If you don't
Yeah.
see that Frankenstein, and again, just let me pause for a minute. If we keep saying Frankenstein, yes, we know he is Frankenstein's monster. It's such a habit to just say
Oh,
Frankenstein
yeah.
instead of the monsters.
Right.
But don't get on us about that, listeners. We do know he is Frankenstein's monster and his creator is Frankenstein. Anyway, you do see him in so many iterations. I mean, even like right now, even though we're recording in July, we're already starting to get little trickles of Halloween stuff. And even if it's not the officially licensed Universal Monster Frankenstein, you can tell where the inspiration came from. It came from this one.
Right.
And there's so many movies, right? We talked about there's the Robert De Niro one, and you could Google Frankenstein or type it into IMDb, and there's so many versions of this movie. And
All the way to the animated stuff too.
yeah,
You know.
Frankenweenie, and it's inspired other types of Frankenstein movies. There's the current
Sure.
one, Lisa Frankenstein. You could argue My Boyfriend's Back, Encino Man. There's so many movies. They definitely, I think, took inspiration from the story of Frankenstein, and you have to watching this movie, you have to appreciate how much they did in such an early time. This movie's almost 100 years old at this point, and
Right.
I think it still holds up. I love
Yeah.
it.
The other thing too is the audiences were new. This was very new to them. You take a teenager now, they look at everything so computer generated, and there's not a whole lot of imagination space available. Um, but back in the 1930s, people The first scene in the movie is the gentleman coming out of the curtain and saying, "This is gonna scare you. If you're weak of heart or you don't think you can handle it, now's the time to walk out of the theater," because they had never seen anything like this. And so, um, this kind of put that whole set the tone for the genre, but it set the tone for movies like this. And so there's not a whole lot of jump scares in this one, but there's a lot of scary points in this if you had never seen that before.
Exactly.
And so that's the other thing I like about it because it was simpler and they used just little intricate things to bring that imagination, that horror, that scariness to you without showing it. It wasn't a
There's
a
no
graphic thing
gore.
coming out. It wasn't yeah, no gore at all, yeah, but it was, implied. So they're letting your imagination, they're letting, the fear in you, this unease in you percolate and grow, and so that's the other thing I liked about it because it put a lot more as me as the viewer, put me into it and let my imagination fill in all those gaps, which is a lot stronger than a lot of the stuff you can see on screen.
Yeah, I try to picture myself like what it would have been like if from what I understand, and I know part of Mark is gonna be here because he knows a lot about the production of this movie, so chime in on any of this, but from what I understand, this is one of the early movies in terms of talking, like, before this, there was no I mean, clearly, when you watch it too, there's no soundtrack, but this is one of the early movies where there is actually people talking, it's not a silent film, so I try to imagine myself in that era, watching this in a movie theater and hearing that, and I wonder if I would be so into it. I mean, I'm sure some people might have walked out. I'm sure there was some when the monster came out, some people might have left the movie theater. Me nowadays, I'm like, "Yes, show me some spooky shit. I'm ready for it."
Yeah, exactly.
I would have been that way. I don't know. I mean,
I know.
but I try to put myself in that sense. Like, forget all the other movies you've seen and just try to like be in that moment, and you will appreciate it much more.
It was interesting because this is the second, like, talking horror movie. Earlier in 1931, Dracula came out, and that was the very first one they did in sound, and that basically came right off the stage. They had a play. Bela Lugosi was Dracula in that, and ever said they just took him and put it in there. So if you look at that one, just the you could just see the difference in the cinematography and the way they approached the film. And then the director came in with just all sorts of wonderful ideas. He actually got rid of a few people that had done some preliminary work because he wanted to change the look and the feel about it. And that was just great instinct on his part. But having been only the second talking horror movie, they had done other ones in the past that they recycled into talkies over the next 10 years or so. But it just gave them a great opportunity to just expand it a little bit. But one thing I noticed is if you watch, um, just one blank here. If you watch Boris Karloff as the monster, his performance, he is performing a silent movie act. Doesn't speak at all. He make grunts and groans and makes some noises and stuff. But everything he does is just, his movements, his actions, it's all he's putting on a silent movie act, performance, because that's where he came from as well. And so you have to let your gestures, you have to let your facial features, you have to let all that stuff speak for you, which is what he does so beautifully in this movie, which makes him such an icon in this thing.
Yeah, his mannerisms come through, his body movements. You could tell that he's an actor from that era, and I think something we didn't mention is that this movie is not based on the original book of Mary Shelley, it's based on a play, and so that's why we get the curtain, and you can see that on the sets, and you could see in some of the actors too. Some of them, they're acting for the people in the back and the
Right.
top. They're big dramatic movements, and that's something I've learned. Thankfully, my father, and my mom, this was something they as a child, we made a way to go and see plays and appreciate musicals, and I think that's also added to my love of cinema. But you can see the difference in a stage actor versus an only on-screen actor, and even some of these actors, some of their stuff, it might come off as what we might call cheesy nowadays, but I don't think it was meant to be cheesy, they weren't going for that. It's just it was a different time, they're transitioning into that, but it
Right.
really worked. Boris Karloff, he played up on that, and it worked. He was scary in for being
Phenomenal.
yeah, he was I'm lost I'm losing my thought here, but I thought he
That's
was
okay.
scary, he was a great monster.
Oh, he was perfect because again, he just let his just the eye movements and the shallow, the sunken cheeks and just the way his hands moved. And I spent a lot of time when I would watch the movie last. I just watched his hands because his hands just did amazing things. And so it's crazy what you can convey with just such subtle. Because he was covered up everywhere else, and he was buffed up in the
Mhm.
costume, and the head was covered up. This was about all of him that you saw. So it was interesting just watching his mannerisms play the part, and he did it so well.
Yeah, I heard that they did a lot to him too, right? In terms of like he's not as tall. He's wearing lifts, I think, and
He's wearing lifts. They bulked up his chest, his shoulders. If you look at him, they wanted his head to look smaller than his body. So if you watch that, his head actually looks smaller, but he's super tall, right?
mm,
Yeah, with the lifts. But his arms, everything's padded up, and so they wanted to make him look like he was put together from all these parts of, oh,
which he's supposed to be.
yeah, yeah, bad guys, all that kind of stuff. His head, he spent between 3 and 6 hours in the makeup chair because they didn't have any latex kind of silicone they put on now. They built up his head and stuff, just layers and layers and layers of plastics and pastes and all that kind of stuff, and then the hair pieces and all that kind of stuff. And so it weighed a lot too. I mean, it was heavy, and so there was probably 3 or 4 extra pounds of stuff on his head. And once he was in there, you see pictures of him, black and white from the production. Yeah, he's sitting inside smoking a cigarette in his head and using a straw to drink and all that and eat stuff. And it must have been tough. But again, they only shot this movie. It only took them like 2 weeks or something or less.
Really?
Yeah. So these movies were cranked out quick, and it was pretty amazing they could do that.
Yeah, it doesn't look comfortable, all the stuff that he went through. I heard he even had, like, back issues from carrying around stuff and doing things, all the physicality in it. So in the movie,
Sure.
we said it opens up as a play, and we have kind of a backstory going on. If somebody does never watched the movie or never read the books, they just know, "Oh, there's this character that's put together from multiple parts." Yeah, he goes, "Er," and he grunts, and, he's supposed to be this monster, and he's brought to life by lightning. But the story itself, it also has heavily involves the guy who creates him, and he is actually Frankenstein, and I have to remind myself, he's Henry Frankenstein. I always wanna say
Right.
Victor because I did read the book when I was I think, gosh, either in I think I read it in high school for one of my classes, and I think I read it another time, but that was a long time ago. So if hopefully I don't mess that up. But a lot of people, they think Igor, and again, it's also not Igor in this one, that's in later iterations, but this guy has and the Dr. Henry Frankenstein, he has kind of a god complex, right?
I think it becomes that. I don't
Mhm.
think he was initially thinking that. It Think about when it was written back in the early 1800s. They were just scientists were very interested in how the body worked and different things. And electricity was coming into play, and so they would take probes and put it into cadavers and watch the muscles contract and try to reanimate certain parts of the body and that kind of thing. So that was all new, and so everybody's thinking, "Oh, what if we could do this? What if we could do this?" And so I think that's where some of Mary Shelley's thoughts came from when she wrote the story. And so that's kind of where we see Dr. Frankenstein is he has gone through med school. He has studied under just incredible minds about the body and what it can do and the possibilities of this. And so he just took that and ran with it. I kind of went over the edge with this at that point. So
Yeah, so he's part of the story. He like you said, he's gone over the edge. He's really fascinated, like, what I think humans were still doing that, right? We're trying to figure out, like, why we're here, what's going on with this. But with that, we have his backstory. He's got a girlfriend, he's got a fiance. We have the concern with her. We have his interesting father, the Baron, and eventually he comes ac he resorts to grave robbing with Fritz, and Fritz is his version of what a lot of people probably think is Igor, but in this one, it's actually the original guy is Fritz,
Mhm.
his hunchback assistant, and they take a body, they realize the brain is damaged, and they gotta come up with a new brain. So, they go to the university, and Fritz, he's playing the bumbling assistant, and he accidentally grabs the damaged brain rather than the perfect, quote unquote, perfect brain. He grabs a criminal brain and they put it into Frankenstein. And what comes of it is this whole concept of I think of it as nature versus nurture is Frankenstein the monster is Henry Frankenstein the monster because he created him. He doesn't really do right by him. And after that, we find out how Frankenstein's monster, how he's trying to navigate this world and he has no guidance, and we get a lot of interesting things that go on with that.
Yeah,
So
you as the monster matures
yeah.
in the movie, you see his thinking, and he comes into a situation he has to really consider. Again, we don't get any real insight as to what is going on in his brain, but he's looking at things like a child for the very first time.
Mhm.
And so it's a new world for him. He's a innocent, if you will, because he's never experienced anything. And so he's learning as he goes. And, when things happen to him, if I do this, this is going to happen to me. Like the first time he saw fire and Fritz got scared and he's
Mhm.
shoving the torch in his face. And so he's getting mad at that kind of stuff. And he realizes, okay, people aren't always nice. And how am I going to respond to that? If they're mean to me, I always say, okay, I can be mean back to them because if they give that to me, I give it back to them. So it's interesting seeing how that plays out. And then towards the end of the movie, you can see he's developed a little bit more mindset and direction and that kind of thing. But at the beginning of the movie, I always look at him as an infant. He's just learning as he goes. I've got a couple of young grandkids and just watching them. I love watching their eyes and watching how they're learning and experiencing the world. And you have kids, you know how that is. And so it's just really cool to sit there and watch. And
Mhm.
so I see that in the monster when he first gets animated and as he moves through the story. So I think I think he's reacting. I'm not sure it's he didn't have a long time to do the whole nature or the nurture thing, but I think he was just reacting a lot to what was happening to him and scared. If you look at dogs, my wife's a vet, so I got a lot of dog stories, but they react, growl, bite, snap. It's not that they're mean; it's just that they're scared and they just react to that, and that's their defense mechanism. So maybe that's what he was going through too. He just all he had was his size and his strength and his ability to do whatever he could do to get out of the situation. So
Yeah. Yeah, so after we get to see after he it's alive, our classic scene.
right,
Um, we get to see him navigating with different people. We get the infamous scene, which I'm not ready to talk about, the little girl, and ultimately what we think is his demise, but we know it's not his demise because there's plenty of sequels in this franchise. But I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of a synopsis without
sure, yeah.
too much away because I do want people, if you've never seen it, please go watch this. But
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you've never really experienced it, it's not a long movie at all. And you got to look at it. If you look at it through 2025 eyes, we go to the theater now and see a movie now, and you look at something that was made almost 100 years ago, it's going to look very different. But just experience it for what it is. Don't compare it to what you know now because you can't. You have to look at it through somebody who's never seen that before eyes. One of the cool things at the very beginning was they come out and say, "You're going to see something very scary. It's something you've never experienced before. So if you can't handle this or if your heart's please leave the theater now."
yeah,
And so, I mean, that was a real thing because these people had never experienced that before. And so so look at it through that eye,
yeah,
through that lens.
yeah, exactly. Look at it through that lens. That's what I was gonna say. So this movie, it was released before something called the Hays Code, and from what I understand, and I wanna revisit some of these scenes. Let's talk about the infamous scene. Okay, there's a scene, and there's a little girl right after Frankenstein. Eventually, he kills Fritz. He's on the move. He's going now to a village, and he stumbles upon a little girl named Maria, who shout out to she's holding a really cute little tabby cat. The cat is okay, just so people know. I have fans
Yeah.
that horror fans we love we don't mind killing, but don't hurt the cats and
Yeah.
dogs.
Don't hit the animals. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially a tabby cat. That's on our logo. We love our tabby cats here
Yeah.
at Dreadful Dialogue.
That's
But fortunately, the little girl, and it's thinking about what you said about learning from kids, and I go through this with my own child, right? My son just turned 4, and you're trying to teach him things, and he mimics everything, and he thinks, "Oh, well, if I do this, this will happen." Like, he'll throw something, and it's fun. We're playing a little game. We're throwing something, and then he's like, "Oh, well, if I throw it further, that might be fun." But it's like, "No, don't throw it at the TV. Don't throw it at the fan. It's gonna come back and hit you."
They'll throw it at your sister.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't throw it at your sibling. He doesn't have a sibling. He's an only
Right.
don't throw it at mom's face. So
Right.
things of that nature. And what happens with Frankenstein is unfortunately, and this is a scene that, from what I understand, and you could probably tell me more about that, it was not in the original because it was too dramatic. He stumbles upon this little girl. She's like, hi. She's very innocent. She's not scared of him being a monster, which I love that, right? Because kids,
Hmm.
that
Again, it's her innocence too. It's just somebody.
yes, her innocence. It's just another person. She doesn't see.
Hi, I'm Maria. Come play with me.
Yeah, yeah, and she's telling him, "Oh, look, we could throw flowers," and they're throwing flowers into a lake, and she's like, "Look, they're like a boat. They'll float," which makes me think of Stephen King. I'm like, "Did he get that from there for Pennywise? You'll float too?" Because he throws her. Okay, so I shouldn't be making jokes about this girl, but they throw the flower. She gives him some flowers. She's throwing flowers. He's throwing flowers. And his eyes are lighting up like you said. He's like a child.
Well, yeah, he's kind of smiling. You can just see that. His attitude is so much different.
Yeah. And after he runs out of flowers, he says, "Well, what am I gonna throw in the lake now?" And he throws Maria into the lake. And we find out she drowned. How do you think audiences would have handled that? From what I understand, they didn't get to see that though.
Well, in the original cut, it was in.
Okay.
And then when they distributed it, some cities had them taken out. Some states had a list of all these things they wanted taken out, and it would get actually, they said, we can't do that because then it cut the movie in half. I mean, that's how much they wanted to take out. Some countries banned the movie completely.
Wow.
And so for some of that stuff, but in the original cut, it was okay. After the Hayes Act came in, they actually had to cut some things. But the Maria scene, that was actually found in the archives, and they were able to put it back when they kind of redid the movie, cleaned it up, and maybe digitized it and all that kind of stuff.
Remastered, yeah.
So they put that back in. But again, if you look at it from the perspective of here, I'm a infant mind in the monster. He looks around when he's done. He goes, oh, so he just picks up Maria, not in any kind of angry or sinister way, and just throws her into water. Luckily, we don't see her thrashing around. He's
No.
standing in the way, and so you just see the waves moving, and then his reaction to me really shows it was not intentional. He
No.
got he didn't know what to do. He's looking around. He seems flustered. He seems confused, and then he got scared and he just ran away. It's a horrible a horrible scene. And what happens? It's even worse later when the dad comes walking through the whole marriage festival with his
Yes.
daughter limp over both of his arms, and it's the look on his face, and poor Maria just kind of limping, and as he goes through the town, the music not stops. It doesn't stop till the very end, but the people just and then they just stop. They just see the pain and the suffering that came from that. So yeah, there are consequences to that, just as we know in a lot of things in life. But the way he approached it was boat, flower, flower. I need something else to throw. He just picked her up and just threw her in the water, and it was just like you're saying. If I could do it with this, let me try it with this. If I could throw that, let me try it with this, see if it still works. And so I think he went at it in an innocent way, but it turned tragic, obviously for Maria and her dad. But the reaction to me, I don't know if he was intentional, that he wouldn't give a damn. He would have,
Yeah.
but it's the attitude and the reaction on his face and his action shows that there was, again, some confusion or sadness or just a don't know what to do kind of attitude. So, yeah, but it was interesting that was one of the scenes that was so controversial.
Controversial. Yeah, that's the word I
Um,
was looking for.
yeah, I mean, you look at horror movies now, you slashing stuff all over the
Yeah,
place,
yeah.
beheadings and all that kind of stuff. But for again, 1931, you don't see people dying like that. And if we go back to another scene when they first brought the monster down from his inception, where they reanimated him and his hand starts moving and stuff, he gets up. When Dr. Frankenstein said, "Now I know what it feels like to be God," that was another one that was cut or was flagged that didn't make it through the second tier. So that was another part of that was very controversial to take out, because you can't compare yourself to God. So that Hayes Act put a lot of restrictions in for good reason on a lot of things, and so kept the line pretty clear. As before, they did different ratings and all that kind of stuff. So not until the rating system came out were you able to label it as such, and you can keep that stuff in there. But yeah, those two scenes I think were the biggest thing that made it so controversial.
Yeah, I could imagine the him saying that he was like God now being very controversial at the time. There's a lot more religious, I don't know the word I'm looking for, allowance, I guess. It's more socially acceptable, whether you're religious, not religious. I mean, in some crowds, not all crowds. But
Again, it was a simpler time.
time, yeah, that I could see how that would definitely be something that they didn't want people hearing. It could cause an uproar all on its own. But yeah, I agree with you. The scene where he's carrying Maria, to me, where he's carrying her body, was way more traumatizing. It's still it makes you sad when you see it, and that's when I find myself really confused because you're like, I know he didn't hurt her on purpose. And
Right.
that's where I find I kind of like start to turn my anger to Henry because I'm like, well, you just like, oh, I'm just gonna lock him up in this place and I'm just gonna leave him here and he didn't take proper care. It's almost like a deadbeat dad. Come on, man, you're supposed to be looking out for your creation. If you're if
Yeah. Initially, they didn't lock him up. That was his room basically. And so when you first see the monster, I'm not sure how many days or hours it was after he was animated. He was talking to his doctor friend,
Mhm.
his mentor,
Yeah.
and then he was saying, "Oh, here he comes," and he just walked through the door.
Hmm.
So he wasn't locked up. He wasn't chained up. It wasn't until after a couple of episodes with the torch and different things when he was slapping people around that they locked him up because they realized,
Wow.
oh, we don't know how to control him. We don't know what makes him tick. We don't know what sets him off. So we got to be more cautious. And again, you lock up an animal, then they turn a little bit more vicious.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. So
Yeah, it would he could have instead of trying to teach him like we going back to children like you do now when they make a mistake. I mean, you're trying to explain to them, you're trying to show them different things. You're trying to they're learning at that age. Their brain is forming, their thoughts are forming, things are growing and you're trying to teach them. But yeah, he went the route of like, oh, we'll just lock him up because I do get the vibe that he knew something was going wrong when he did seem intentional when he killed the guy that was it his friend, the professor? Where they're like he's like, "You know what?" Basically, they're like, put him out of his misery, unfortunately, and
yeah,
they're gonna essentially, they're gonna kill him. I don't know why I feel so see, even the way I'm saying it, right? I talk about people dying all the time, but I'm like, "They're gonna kill him." Yet
I know.
it just shows how empathetic I was towards him. I don't think he it felt like he kinda choked him on purpose on that scene, but I don't think with the girl, it was totally different.
No, it was different because yeah, initially because I think it's Dr. Waldman,
Yeah.
he was gonna at that point he kept injecting him to keep him sedated, and
Mhm.
he got all the tools out. He was gonna dissect him
There you
to
go.
see what was making him go, and that's when he just reached up with his hand behind him and grabbed his neck and just choked him because he realized he was in danger, and that's about the only thing he could do, and so that made it tough. So that was intentional, responsive, maybe
Fight or flight.
yeah, fight or flight kinda thing. And so that was between being teased and torched by, Fritz and then having the doctor ready to yeah, at that point, he realized he was alive. He was, um, a person, whatever. And so he realized that he had to protect himself, and that's what happened. So, yeah, that I would agree, that was intentional, but what he did, with Maria was just I think it was just, "Oh, this is fun. Let's yeah, what else was oh" and so there it goes.
Yeah, and I always wonder if somehow somebody had seen in which I also wonder, I'm like, I this is why I think too much into movies. I'm like, well, how did the people even know that he did it, right? He that happened and he took off, but it's a movie. But I always
It's
wonder
yeah.
if somebody had actually witnessed what happened, especially Henry Frankenstein, could he have said, "Hey, look, I'm trying to I apologize. I didn't mean for my creation." If he had maybe taken a little more ownership, like, "Hey, I'm gonna work with him. We can change him." I mean, he does that at the end, right? He tries to promise him a wife and that he's gonna make
Right,
him a
right.
bride going into Bride of Frankenstein. Would that have changed the townspeople's views towards him, or were they already just mob mentality kicked in? They were already angry? I don't know. I
No,
always wonder, maybe I'm thinking too far into it.
well, yeah, there seemed like a gap between when he did that, and then he comes walking in with Maria, and they're sitting at the bottom of the steps looking at the burgermaster, and he goes, "What happened?" She was killed by the monster. And so I'm not sure what the gap was because remember, Dr. Frankenstein kind of lost his mind. He kind of had a little mental breakdown after he goes, "I'm gone." I don't know. They took him away, and so he went back to his house with his dad, and then that's when Dr. Waldman was going to do the dissection and do all the research and stuff on it. Um, so there was some kind of gap where the monster had fled, and so he's wandering around the countryside, and we don't know what kind of havoc he's wreaking out there because they don't mention it. But he comes in and says the monster killed her, and so at that point, that's the first time you get that inclination that everybody's kind of going, "Nah, he's not such a good guy. We're gonna have to take care of him."
You know? And I think also the Baron, the dad of Henry, he wanted this he was ready for this wedding to go. He's like, "We gotta get this wedding going. We need to get these preparations because that's something
I
that."
think he likes a good party.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He talks about the town being ready, the town's getting all set up, and all this kind of stuff. So it was
Yeah.
a big deal.
He was kind of the only one, that brought for such a serious movie, he a tad bit of comedic element, and like I said
Hmm.
before, I this backstory that's going on with Henry being engaged, he's away from his fiancée, The fiance's worried about him. She's like, "What is he up to?" It kind of gives you Dracula vibes too, right? How he's
Yeah.
isolated and
Sure.
going on with him with Jonathan. You kind of those two stories kind of mirror each other, but I always wonder, did it take from the movie or is that just a sign of the times? Like they had to throw in a little bit of a love story going on in the background.
I think it was, I think it had to do with the story because you have to have that kind of little bit of that tension. It opens up with her receiving a letter from him saying, "I can't come right now. I'm so engaged with my work," and so she was worried about him because he's acting really weird towards us, and that kind of goes to where he kind of went from the, "I'm very interested in this research. What about this? What about this?" To, "I think I can do this. Let me see if I can make a man and reanimate." So that's where he kind of turned, went over that edge or crossed that line towards that more crazy mad scientist thing, which this really set the tone for the mad scientist for future movies.
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of where he was there because he was started going mad towards his job and wouldn't do anything but that. And so that's when they decided to go visit. And that's when they got to witness him do the whole reanimation and live through that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I think it would've made it a totally darker movie if they didn't have any of that going on, and they even give it a little happy ending because we get the wedding at the end, the Barons even sharing wine or sharing
I
champagne.
know the toast. He was the son of the House of Frankenstein.
Yeah, and they're gonna wear these flower crowns, there's this whole thing, and it's like and then it's just like, "Oh, that's over." Of course, that's after I wanna talk a little bit about the windmill scene, right? Once this crowd hears about Maria's death, and they kinda form posses, and they send them after him, and what are your thoughts on the windmill scene?
Well, it was interesting. It was a kind of a cool climax, and it has like two endings. One I'd never heard of before until I started researching this a bit. Um, the director really wanted Henry Frankenstein to die
Mhm.
in this, and he was supposed to die in the windmill with the monster. And but then everybody, no, 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 you can't do that. You got to have some kind of a hopeful ending. So that's why he ended up being falling off the balcony, landing on one of the vanes of the windmill, then sliding off in the ground, and they carried him off, and he lived maybe not happily ever after, but he lived on. But very dramatic, and I like the fact that the higher they climbed up the windmill, more enclosed, tighter spaces. I love the old as the fire burned and the big beams falling, and again, they're setting the tone for so many movies that are going to happen later that use that same technique. But yeah, the fact that everybody's crowded around, kind of fast forward all the way to Beauty and the Beast. They're all running down the thing
Yes.
with their torches. We're going to run to the killing place, and we're going to take care of this. And so it was the whole village after him at that point. So they had three different groups, went to three different areas. They found him. They all ran back to the windmill, and it's a dark, creaky windmill. I mean, that's spooky anyway. That's one of those things, but a lot of things. And so that was eerie up on top of this peak, and then when the shadows and kind of the sun fading way out in the distance. And so very dramatic, very picturesque, but this is their chance to obliterate the evil that was thrust upon them. So,
Yeah, so do you have I think it's so funny too because you'll see it, like I think they used to have kind of a set, or maybe I'm just thinking of the Halloween related shows, how epic that windmill is, and again, if you've never seen the movie and you see this windmill, you might not put that together, because I don't think they don't actually say the location, but clearly it's supposed to be like a German village maybe,
yeah,
or
if you think about, yeah, because
the
yeah,
or
Burgermeisters and barons,
Baron.
and then they've got that accent, some kind of Middle European. It could be anywhere, not Western Europe, not Eastern Europe, kind of right in the middle, anywhere in there, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, because I always wondered if they didn't tell us on purpose. If you listen I
And
mean,
their clothes.
Stein, I mean, clearly, but if you're not familiar with, other cultures and languages, you might not catch that, but yeah, you see the windmill on so much stuff, and again, I wonder as people who've never seen the movie, like, do they understand the importance of the windmill?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because at that point, some of them are used for pumping water, a lot of them were used for grinding grain, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, why in the world would they take all their grain all the way up to the top of this barren hill for this windmill way up there versus building one down closer to the farms? So that's my ag side coming in going, why would they do that? That sounds kind of weird.
I never even thought
But
about that.
yeah, I know.
It's a
Yeah.
good point, though.
Yeah.
So what other fascinating things can you share with us about the production?
One of the things that I number one, black and white.
Mm.
that allows you to do so much. If it that first couple scenes where the monster is introduced, and just even the whole laboratory set that they have, the shadows, the darkness play off the light. You can it just it things hide in the dark,
Mhm.
and unseen things are scary in the dark. And so that there's that element. But then when the monster turns around, the way that he was lit, darkness under the eyes, shadows where the cheeks were sunken in, all that kind of thing, it really gave a whole different dimension to the monster itself, just with the lighting. And so I love that black and white thing. The other part was the use of the camera. The director was known for using cameras in a different way. If you notice, he's the first one that used a 360 pivot on the camera, and it's used a couple times in the movie. And I have to go back and really do check it out. But in the laboratory scene, there's a big scene where it pivots, it rotates, so you get to see. So he was the only one that did that. During the village scenes, the camera is moving. You could see it moving through the town
Yeah.
during the festival time as it's going over the cobblestones and stuff. But nobody else did that before. They would set up the camera, take the long shot, move it, take this, do all that kind of thing. So again, he set up some things that are going to be used forevermore.
Commonplace now, yeah.
Yeah, in cinematography and staging and lighting and that kind of thing. Um, and then one of the probably my favorite scene, the first time you see the monster when he turns around, it's not like a zoom in crazy. It's here's the monster, then they move the camera, here's the monster, and they move right in his face. You get to see a close up of the monster. You see all the ridges and the scars and all like so you get to really see the horror of him close up. And again, that black and white, the shadows really help amplify that because, you know, sure they when they you do makeup for black and white, you use a lot of dark colors versus light colors. And so if they would have had color camera at the time, it would have looked awful. But with the shadows, the greens and the grays and everything just really brought out the character of the monster. So I think the makeup and the cinematography, I think it's so outstanding. I started, as I got older, I started looking at it, I go, man, that is really cool what they were able to do without any kind of technology, practical effects, and not special effects, practical effects that they're able to do. The prop people built all the Jacob's ladders and all the sparks. And so they built all that from things that they could buy at the time. And that was all new technology. And so most people had never seen that stuff. And having that in the background and all the mechanical
Zapping,
and
yeah.
sparks. Yeah, it was amazing to people. It really, you know, almost sci-fi-ish before that
Uh-huh.
was a thing. It just brought technology into people's eyes, kind of, oh my God, could this really happen? Because this makes total sense. Oh my God, you can do this. Oh, this is scary. And so it adds that extra layer of horror or fear, which makes you feel something, which is what I guess movies are all about. You want to fear something, you know, feel something. And so add that extra layer to that. So I just love that. They were cranking these movies out in a couple weeks. I think this one was like a 3-week movie or something. And if you think about that now compared to movies they shoot now, it takes a year and a half, maybe not for the photography, but for all the special
All that,
effects and the
yeah,
music.
post, yeah.
Yeah, the post stuff. And you were mentioned before, there's no soundtrack to this. And so either people are talking or they're not.
Yeah.
And soundtracks has a lot of stuff. This, they use the mood to build the tension. They use the mood to really pull you into the story versus the dramatic soundtrack or the foreboding music or sounds in the back, those kind of things. So I thought that was really cool. And another fact that I thought was super, super, super exciting was back in 1991, the National Film Registry took this and put it into the National Film Registry. So it was labeled because it was so significant in that genre, and it, again helps set up things in the future. This is kind of a milestone picture as far as the development and what they used it for and the impact it had not only on Universal. Oh my gosh, Universal took off. They became
Yeah.
like Monster Inc. They just cranked them out.
Yeah.
Some good, some not so good, but they cranked them out, and people went for them. And it saved the studio because they were really hurting. And so this movie, it's Dracula, and this movie and the whole monster industry really helped save the studio and let them do other things. So that was cool too. So some really great groundbreaking things happening here, and it just shows it stands the test of time. And I guess that's probably the greatest praise you can get for a movie. So
Yeah, we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about I heard something did you hear something about Boris Karloff's teeth and that he took some of his teeth out or,
I didn't see that. I mean, there's
I don't know if
back
it's an urban legend. I've been trying to look it up and find it, and I haven't been able to
I did
educators
notice
want a
that his
reputable
cheeks are
source.
very sunken, but you look at him out of makeup, and it kinda looks like him. His kinda cheeks are kinda like that. Dentistry was not the way it is now, so maybe he had partials or had dentures. He was able to take those out, and makes your face look a little bit more sunken. Um, so I don't know. People now will actually put something on the inside to kinda squish them together and that kinda thing. So I don't think that happened, but, he could have taken out some dentures or partials or whatever he had to make his face look a little bit more that way.
Sunken in, yeah, because
Yeah,
the cheeks really do look good, and it doesn't look like it's makeup. It does look
it does. I mean, you can't walk around sucking them in all the time.
yeah,
I
that
mean, it works, but, I mean, you can't hold that for very long.
yeah, not on a movie set. That would
Yeah, the makeup, although simple, it was complex and it was very effective, so
Are you a fan of any of the other sequels?
I am. I mentioned in our pre-talk, I had just stumbled across The Son of Frankenstein, a couple months ago, so that was kinda cool. I like Bride, and then when you start getting into the '70s stuff, you got Dracula versus Frankenstein, and you got all these people playing the different monsters, and which is neat because it's nice getting a different perspective. Um, but those 2 I really like. They changed Wolfman, all that kinda stuff they bring in, Invisible Man, Phantom of the Opera they redid. What was another one? Can't remember. Actually, a little
Right.
personal thing.
Fellow ones.
I know. Abbott and Costello later,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
They did the but on my grandmother's side, I'm actually related to, the Cheneys, and so they did my grandmother's family tree back and got into Lon Chaney. I go, "Oh, that's cool."
There you
So,
go. See?
I know, so that's
It's in
kinda
the
fun.
blood.
I know, it's in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I did like what they did. I remember seeing, Creature from the Black Lagoon, uh, at UC Santa Barbara as the sun was going down right by their lake. They were showing it projected. I go, "This is really cool." So, yeah, it's just really neat, again, all that black and white, all the different stuff. It's just I mean, it's hokey when you think about it now, look at it through today's eyes, but again, back at the time, it's so interesting and what they thought about. They didn't know as much about biology and where what animals lived and blah, blah, blah. Um, so it was interesting to see their take on how they could handle that, or let's throw this stuff in the water so it numbs the creature and all these different things. But this is like the original for me. Yeah, I do like it better than Dracula. When I look back at Dracula, that was the first movie they took, horror movie or monster movie that was not silent. They had did several silent movies, and Dracula was the first one they did like this, and this was the one they did next. And I think they learned some stuff. Different director, um, and stuff, but this one I set the tone. I think set the tone for everything they did afterwards. So again, this is kind of a signpost or a benchmark for
Yeah.
how
It's
to
flagship, yeah.
do this. Yeah. I mean, jump ahead, you think of a young Frankenstein. They were able to get some of the original props from all those electric stuff in the back. They were able to find some of the original props and different things. They were able to borrow it and recreate that whole scene. And you think about it, it's perfect. It's when you satirize something like that, it's a huge compliment. So it's an enduring film for lots of different reasons. And so those are the things I like about it, and the sequels and what it spawned afterwards.
Yeah, I think for me, definitely the first one, Bride and Son of Frankenstein, those are kinda in within the Frankenstein universe, those are probably, like, my 3 favorite, and like you said, it
Hmm.
kinda gets a little wild as you get further from it, but it's so enduring. Again, we talked about all these different movies that it inspired, but even like we said, the concept of like a mad scientist. And now you see kids even dressed up as they're wearing the lab coats, or they're doing different things with their hair, and they're
Hmm.
trying to get they even try to get their hands on like you have the bad Halloween props with the forgot what you called those. I didn't even know the names of those. The little zappy things where you call 'em
Oh yeah, the Jacob's ladder.
yeah.
Yeah.
I heard that was those were used for years in Hollywood because of this movie, and again, if people have never seen the movie, you don't realize how influential it is on not just the horror genre. I think even in the it had me thinking about the silly movie Weird Science, right? And they're using the lightning and the lifting of the body up and down. You see that trope used constantly in different movies, and
Right.
yeah, it's so enduring. I love the first 3. I wish there was a little bit more of the monster even in the second one. I wish there was a
Yes.
little bit more of the bride. I mean, I crack up because I'm like, "It's Bride of Frankenstein," but, like, we don't really even get along,
No.
and there's so many great artist renditions now where like they have the two of them hugging and doing different things. It's like, oh, they
Right?
really don't even do any of that. But if you didn't watch the movies, you wouldn't know.
I know. I think I've even seen what that American Gothic, where the guy with the pitchfork, the wife of the
Mhm.
farmers. I've seen that with Frank, with the monster and
Yeah,
the
I mean, even
Bride of
mine's
Frankenstein.
like Andy Warhol.
I know. I love that.
I mean,
Yeah.
Andy Warhol came much later, but it's his
It's
per
just
per
ingrained. It's ingrained in our culture now,
yeah.
and so when you say Frankenstein, first thing you think of is the monster. You don't think of the doctor.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
and like I said, people are probably some people are very, very quick to no, 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 he's Frankenstein's monster, and it's like,
right?
but everybody calls him Frankenstein unless
Yeah,
and I try to remember to say the monster, but I call him Frankie when I see him. I
yeah.
mean,
There you go. Yeah, well, just like in Hotel Transylvania, his name's Frank or Frankie.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think
so
Saturday Night Live even does like a whole skit where they make fun of him. They call them the Franks, then they're like the family, and it's kind of like a mashup of like they're making fun of Twilight movies, and then they're making fun of Frankenstein, and it's like the Franks versus the Vamps or something. I don't know. It's hilarious. I love it. That is anything that makes it on a Saturday Night Live. I'm like, oh, that's the ultimate form of flattery. Like even if you're getting made fun of, like that means that you are big for people have seen you enough. You've made it into pop culture that we're
exactly. Yeah, and Frank, the monsters have totally done that. They had that TV series with
oh the
um,
monsters, yeah,
the monsters, yeah, with Fred Gwynn, and we had a vampire, we had a Bride of Dracula, we had Dracula, we had the Wolfman's son, and the beautiful daughter who was really ugly, right? Because she
yeah,
was
yeah.
normal.
She's the awkward
So,
one.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but this movie set the standard for, like, the mad scientist,
yeah.
and so, if after that, every time I saw his system, that he was either deformed or he was had the hunchback and all that kinda stuff, so, again, it kinda set that standard that people have copied because it's known, something you expect almost, or at least for the early ones.
Yeah, it's universally known.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said something about the directors. Did we touch on that? You said that he was making some changes or
Oh, yeah, he came into I can't remember all of them, but, he came in after other people had written the script and had some specific ideas of how they wanted the story to go. But he wanted the monster to be more menacing. The original story from Mary Shelley's story, the monster was not that menacing. He was more human-like, but he wanted the monster to be a little bit more scary and a little bit more menacing. So he changed the 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 angle of the story and kind of rewrote some parts or had it rewritten to kind of fit that vision he had.
okay. I think it worked though, because then it wouldn't have been a horror movie or a scary movie.
Exactly.
I part of me wishes he would have talked more because he does have, if I recall, some good dialogue in the book, but um they they don't tell you it this they don't say this is an adaptation of the book. It's its own
No.
version. And it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In some of the subsequent movies, Bride and Son of, the monster's more mature, and so
Mhm.
just like a child and maturing, language gets better. I think in the last movie, he actually does a lot more dialogue.
Gotcha. Well, let's ask some fun questions here, okay?
Okay.
Um, if he had a dating profile, the monster had one, what do you think it would say?
Oh, man. Quiet, thoughtful. Um, I don't let's see. Fear startles easy.
Startles
Uh,
easy, yeah. No jump scares, please.
yeah, yeah.
Do not like
Fun
fire.
fun to be around. That likes long walks in the forest, and, I don't know.
I think it would be something about, like, fascinated with the mysteries of life.
Oh, there you go, there you go.
I think he would
A deep thinker.
yeah, deep thinker, and what do you think when he has a day off from being this quote unquote "terrifying creation," what do you think he does with his free time?
Well, what was funny is I've seen pictures of, like, backstage during the production where you see um, Boris Karloff leaning back against a chair or sitting on a big box smoking a cigarette. So the vision comes to me right now because he's still in his makeup and everything. So it's like I just gotta chill. I don't think he's a reader, at least not in this story. Um, in the book, he's a reader, and
Mhm.
that really makes him stop and think about his own being and who he is and what his place in the world is. But in this one, not so much. So he's not gonna. Maybe he likes to he'd go get a pint somewhere and it's sit back and enjoy life for a day. And I don't know. I haven't really thought about that too
Be a
much.
little new agey or hippie maybe, like
Oh, there you go.
I think he might not like to cook. He's probably like, "Me and fire don't get along so well." He might be into prepared foods only. I think I've seen good renditions where they show him painting. I'm like, yeah, I think he'd be a painter. He might be, when you were saying he might go have a nice pint. I'm like, he might be into bartending. Like he might be into creating new drinks and
Oh, that'd be fun.
cocktails.
That'd be fun. Him as a bartender.
The bartender, right? Because then he doesn't have to get
Eh.
fired. He's, oh, I don't like the way that looks. And he should grunt when he doesn't like the taste and the,
That's funny.
yeah, I think that might be something. I think he could get into making a mixologist. I think he'd be good at that.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Well, Mark, it's been really cool having you on, and thank you for all your insight and choosing this movie. I always love when our guests come up with something for us to watch that I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought about doing that. And
Yeah, and it's one of those oldies but goodies. It's again, it kind of set the standard for so many movies for so many years, and there's so many movies now that use bits and pieces. They'll pull something from what they did and use those in the movies. And so, but it was simpler when it was made. And so that's the other thing too, that they used what they had and they used it so well in this movie. The black and white, the lighting, the practical effects that they used. There wasn't a lot of fancy going on in this movie. It was just really good acting, especially for Karloff. He did such an amazing job. Just if I've been tempted to watch this movie with the sound off, just so I can watch him. And so I think next time I do that, I think I'll do that. So I can just watch what he's doing because he conveys so much as he doesn't speak. He just conveys so much with his body language and his facial features and how he reacts to things. And so just an outstanding, outstanding performance by him. So
yeah, that'd be a great way to appreciate his performance even more than you already do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me. This has been great, and I love sharing this, and hope it had some value. But I had fun.
Yeah, I will, that's what it's all about on the Dreadful Dialogue. We always say, hey, we hope it's not too dreadful, but we hope people have fun listening to this. But Mark, tell people where they can find you, if you're on social media, websites, any of that sort of, if you want projects.
I mostly hang out. Yeah, I mostly hang out on Instagram. I don't do much else. mhvoicetalent.com or mhvoicetalent. You can find me there. Put a .com on there, and that's my website. Yes, I do voiceover, and so I'm actively auditioning for those commercials and all those different things. And I had to do a pirate voice one time, and that was pretty fun. So it's fun doing that because you get to be whoever they want you to be, and it's fun to expand and kind of go, okay, let me try this. And so it's a fun gig to do. So
yeah, like I mentioned before, we had Bonnie who does voiceover, and I'm fascinated by the things that you guys can do with voiceover, the changing of your voices, and it's amazing. I definitely, on a future episode, I'd love to have you come back and delve a little more into that. Tell us how you fell into that, because you got a fascinating career, man, between teaching and being a musician too, doing your voiceover, and having time to come nerd out on the pod.
yeah, I always think that all of our life experiences really help shape what we're doing now and how we see things now. And I am trying to relax a little bit, but this gives me the voiceover stuff and this kind of thing has given me an opportunity to expand pull up some things from my past that I really love, but I didn't have the time to really experience them again. And so this has been great for that. And the voiceover has been good for that. And my music, I kind of shelved for 20 years, started that a couple of years ago. So I'm bringing a lot of joy in my life by doing that again, sharing it with other people and finding out what makes them tick, because I'm a people person. So I love to learn more about them and see how I can enhance their lives. So if you follow any of my stuff on Instagram, I do a lot of that as well. So
yeah, a lot of positivity on your Instagram. I appreciate that.
well, you're very welcome.
We have enough negative in the world. It's good to get a break from all the other stuff, all the other noise that's going on.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, and I really appreciate you, Mark. And for everybody else out there, we hope our conversation wasn't too dreadful. If you want to find me, I'm also on Instagram. If you're a new listener, I'm at Dreadful Dialogue Podcast. I also have a website, dreadfuldialogue.com. And with that, have a good one.
Bye, you guys.